Welcome into the Wiltfong Whip Around. Today is Thursday, May 2nd. We got a lot to talk about. Just now, Kentucky shocked Michigan, landing a top running back that the two were battling over. A lot of insiders didn't see that one coming. We're going to talk Kentucky. We'll talk Notre Dame, Texas, and some new Fong bombs. But first, we're going to talk some Miami Hurricane recruiting. All this Miami talk about the transfer portal lately, but we got to remind people what they're doing at the high school level as well. The Canes are gunning for a third straight top 10 finish, but how high they actually finish will depend on how many five-star recruits Miami can close with. They currently don't have any committed, but just be patient. They're coming. I got On3 Steve Wiltfong here. We're going to figure out how many five stars the Canes will sign in 2025. But first, Miami fans, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We're doing this thing. We cover Miami recruiting better than anybody else. Go ahead, hit subscribe for me, please. All right. Let's bring in the great Steve Wiltfong, and here's a look at some of the five stars that Miami's in contention for. We'll just start at the top. DJ Pickett. Now, he has a family member already on the Miami Hurricanes roster, so that definitely gives them a little leg up on the competition, but boy, is there some competition here. How do you see this one shaking out?
Well, I think it's obvious that Miami's one of his favorite programs. He's taking his recruitment into the fall. I think that's to watch Miami play. And if the Hurricanes have the kind of season that they want to have this year, the kind of season that they've really invested in with two top 10 recruiting classes in a row, really crushing it in the transfer portal, I think it's going to lead to some major recruiting wins. I talked to one source around the program that said there will be a unicorn out there for Miami if the Hurricanes have a great year. DJ Pickett would not be considered one of those. He's strongly considering Miami as it stands right now, alongside LSU and Oregon. Just had a great trip to Oregon. Is super close with Corey Raymond at LSU, but all the family ties at Miami, Josh. His uncle played there. His cousin plays there. He feels at home around the staff. The family's always liked Miami. And if they have a great season and continue to show that trajectory that this program can compete at a championship level, I think when it's all said and done, Miami could be very hard to beat for DJ Pickett.
Yeah, hey, they're already, many consider maybe a favorite for DJ Pickett. Now, the unicorn, though, could be a guy like Jayon Walker, the number one linebacker in America, who's right in Georgia's backyard, being recruited heavily by the Dogs. But he's also been down to Coral Gables a couple times already.
Yeah, another prospect from the Peach State, too, Elijah Griffin, right? Those are guys that have been on campus at Miami, 2 5-stars from the state of Georgia. Jayon Walker, I think Miami's in the top 3 alongside favorite Georgia, and then South Carolina has done a nice job there. Elijah Griffin, we like the Bulldogs for him as well, but Georgia, Miami, Oregon, Colorado, Florida, Clemson, South Carolina. It's a young man that's talking to several other schools as well. Miami's gotten him to campus. They have the Hall of Fame coach on staff and Jason Taylor, Coach Salavea. So many resources that have made this place very attractive to blue chip defensive linemen. The reason why Elijah Griffin's also looking at Miami.
All right, the next 2 prospects on this 5-star list are both committed to other programs. Solomon Thomas to FSU and wide receiver Dallas Wilson, who's out of the Tampa Bay area, committed all the way out to Oregon. So if we look at these 2 5-stars that are committed elsewhere, who do you think Miami right now has a better shot at flipping?
Well, I think Florida State knows that they're going to have to battle to keep Solomon Thomas in the fold. Miami certainly putting pressure on that commitment. And Dallas Wilson, they're considered the biggest threat to flip him from Oregon as things stand now.
Yeah, and then we look at 5-star Jamie French, fresh off the, well, not so fresh anymore, but decommitted from Alabama in the wake of the Nick Saban retirement. He's back on the market, and this kind of has that Jeremiah Smith feel to it, doesn't it? Ohio State kind of the favorite, Miami working hard to keep him home. Now, French is from Jacksonville, not from Miami, but it still has that Jeremiah Smith feel to it.
Well, the difference, Josh, is that Jeremiah Smith committed to Ohio State early and publicly declared them his leader in the place that he was going to attend school. Certainly, he took some other visits, and Buckeyes sweated it out all the way up into the early signing period. But Jamie French, as much as we've liked Ohio State in this recruitment, particularly after his last visit, I'm told that the communication has really increased with Miami
Mm-hmm.
over the last month. So we'll see if things change with Ohio State. My RPM is still on the Buckeyes, but Miami, one of the programs that continues to remain heavily involved with him, and sounds like, again, the communication has gotten better in the last month.
All right, so right now, Miami currently trending for another top 10 class, but they could push further than that, maybe top 5, maybe top 3. We talked about the 5 stars, and we also talked about some flips, but I want to target some more flips that Miami could possibly pull off this cycle, and we'll start where else if we're talking flips in the state of Illinois, the number 1 player in the state. Miami fans know what I'm talking about here. Defensive lineman, this year it's defensive lineman Nate Marshall, who's committed to Michigan, did that last week. But why, Steve? Why do you still have your eye on the Canes here?
I was recently introduced to Roback, and I couldn't be more excited. When I say impressed by the quality and comfort, I mean it. I literally can't take this stuff off since trying it on. For starters, the Roback polos are my favorite polos. They not only have fun designs for every occasion and season, but they fit perfectly and easily transition throughout the day. Roback's everyday shorts are the perfect pairing as well. They are so comfortable and have an elastic waistband and great fabric that is made to stretch. Finally, the Roback hoodie is by far my favorite piece of clothing I own. It is so comfortable. I wear this to start my day, end my day, and everything in between. Easy to be active in it or just relax. The hoodie will fit whatever the day has in store. They have also released a ton of new products. Between their brand new Tailwind tees and bathing suits, Roback is ready for the warm weather. Roback has also been proudly leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with college stars Jalen Milroe, Cade Klubnik, among many others that are becoming the go-to brand for college athletes. Use the code STEVE on Roback.com for a generous 20% off for all new customers through the end of this week. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all performance polos, shorts, and more with the code STEVE. Well, I think having my eye on the Canes is like a little drastic. I just know that Miami is not going to go away here. They're going to continue to keep in touch with Nate Marshall. We'll see if they can pull another Justin Scott here going up into the Chicagoland. They flipped Justin Scott from Ohio State last year, 5-star defensive lineman. Can they do the same and flip an elite defensive lineman from Michigan this cycle? They're certainly going to keep trying.
All right, the next flip target on our list is Hilton Stubbs. Now, when he committed to USC, I think it shocked all of the in-state Florida programs who were recruiting Stubbs. Does Miami still have a shot? Are they still in contact with Stubbs despite his pledge to the Trojans?
Yeah, very much so. I've talked to Hilton Stubbs a couple times. Shortly after he committed to USC, he was back on Miami's campus in early April, and he even said then the energy was high. Coach Cristobal's dedication stood out. He sees me and Zaquan Patterson teaming up as a game changer. They're impressed with him as a prospect, and he's was impressed with the intense practice that he was at. He likes the coaching staff, Coach Guidry, Coach Sheavis Jackson, Coach Jason Taylor, pushing everyone. He talked about Coach Cristobal and how serious he is recruiting him. And then this week, he said it was an honor to be recruited by Miami. Again, reiterated the coaches that he's close with there. He talked about how they've excelled at teaching the game. He thinks this is a place that could get the best out of him. Miami's very much still a major contender for Hilton Drake Stubbs.
The next target we got to talk about on our flip list, or potential flip list, is linebacker Jaden Perlotti, who's committed to the Georgia Bulldogs. Another linebacker in the Dogs' backyard that Miami is a contender for. Do you think that this is somebody that Canes fans need to pay attention to?
Well, he's keeping a lot of schools warm, and Miami's one of them. You know, Auburn, Alabama, some of the other schools that he continues to have dialogue. Mm-hmm. He still visits Georgia regularly and often, too. The Bulldogs want to keep him. But Miami is one of the schools that remains in the picture, and they'll continue to push for him as well.
All right, Miami fans, summer is coming. We know that's when the Canes start really picking it up on the trail. Comment section below, where do we think this class is going to finish? Top 10, top 5, top 3? Who's your biggest flip target? Let me know. Comment section below. All right. Let's talk some Kentucky recruiting. Now, the Cats with a huge win on the recruiting trail today. A bit of a surprise, as I said, to a lot of insiders. We got running back, 4-star running back, Marquise Davis, picking Kentucky over the defending national champion Michigan Wolverines. Steve, how were the Cats able to pull this off?
Well, he told me it's the way they use their running backs, all aspects. He says it's just like the NFL. So he sees an opportunity to be prepared to play at the highest level. And then Kentucky, they've traditionally recruited the state of Ohio very well under Coach Stoops. Vince Marrow is one of the best recruiters in America. He was the lead guy on it. Jay Boulware, running backs coach, offensive coordinator Bush Hamden, and then certainly Coach Stoops certainly involved. He visited Michigan and Kentucky a lot here, and it's Kentucky winning out. And he also pointed to those coaches. He said that they're great people, the opportunity that came with it. I want to go there and try and make a change. Feels like he can trust that staff. And so Kentucky, as they push for a second straight top 25 recruiting class, they land one of the Midwest's best overall players in Marquise Davis.
Did that surprise you?
Well, obviously we've talked about on Whip Around that we like the way things were trending with Michigan, but Kentucky was the program that we had in the top two, and sources around Lexington have always felt good about it. I think it surprised Michigan. I think the timing of it surprised me. No one saw it coming today. But he's in the boat for the Kentucky Wildcats right now, the jewel of a class that has a chance to really pick up some steam and momentum going into the summer.
Yeah. Speaking of momentum, you put in some new predictions on the recruiting prediction machine. We call them Fong bombs on the Wiltfong Whip Around. Tell us about those.
Yeah, 3 new RPM predictions for Kentucky. 2 are fresh, so let's start with the one that's not so fresh. Martell's Carter on 300, 4-star safety from in-state. My prediction joins colleague Chad Simmons, among others. A source says Kentucky is still the one to beat for Martell's Carter. And then the 2 new picks on 300 defensive lineman Javian Campbell, the number 1 prospect in the state, number 12 defensive lineman in the country, 6'5", 260 pounds, Josh. And he's also high on Ohio State, Auburn, Alabama, and Georgia, among others. All 4 of those programs and Kentucky going to get an official visit in June. But a source close to Campbell says Kentucky is the one to beat going into those official visits. And it's a place where they feel it's an opportunity to get the best out of him, a place that'll be the most invested in him. And then tight end Brody Lennon out of Cleveland, same place as Marquise Davis. Vince Marrow again leading the charge for Kentucky. They're battling Penn State and Pittsburgh for Brody Lennon, but source indicates that Kentucky is the one to beat right now for him.
All right, Kentucky fans, let me know how we feeling about this latest recruiting momentum. Comment section below. How good can this class be for the Cats? Let me know. All right, let's talk a little Notre Dame recruiting now and head over to South Bend, where Dallas Golden just committed. Steve, what does the commitment of Dallas Golden mean to this Notre Dame commit class?
Top 5 class. This is one of Notre Dame's most coveted players on the board, regardless of position. They're bringing him in as a corner from Tampa Berkeley Prep. He's fast, he's explosive, he has some versatility, and he tracks the football really well on the back end. Defensive back is a huge position to need for the Irish this cycle, and they add Dallas Golden to another top target, Ivan Taylor, and then Creed Thomas, a corner that they love out of Arizona. Yeah. And I don't think they're done.
Yeah, tell us about that. You've been hinting at another one. Have you put a prediction in yet for this one?
Yeah, we've had a long-standing prediction in favor of Notre Dame for Indianapolis Ben Davis cornerback Mark Zachary IV. And I spent some time with Mark earlier this week during his pro day workout at Ben Davis. And he was originally planning to take official visits to his Final Four schools this summer, which is Cincinnati, Florida, Michigan, and Notre Dame. But he is no longer going to take those trips. He is in decision mode. We're expecting him to announce a commitment sometime in the next couple weeks. And unless something changes, I think Notre Dame's the team to beat there. And like Dallas Golden, this is one of the favorites for Notre Dame this cycle. Mark Zachary's a state champion in football this year. I think he's the only player during the season to catch a pass on Ellis Robinson III. He's a two-way standout at Ben Davis. Then he's the point guard for the basketball team that won the state championship last year, made it to the state championship this year. He has a Butler offer for basketball. So many programs coveted him for football. I like the way it's going for Notre Dame here as they put together a very special defensive backhaul.
All right. Not a lot of spots left on this Notre Dame commit class. So the prospects we talk about are a main priority. I want to pivot to Jayon Blair, 6'4" safety out of North Carolina. And Blair's entering the final stage of his recruitment, his process. And if you look at his recruiting prediction machine, it shows Penn State as the leader. But Notre Dame's heavily involved in this one as well.
Yeah, 3 schools that I'm looking at. He's got 7 finalists. He's
Right.
going to take 7 official visits. He already took 2 in the spring to Louisville and Virginia Tech. Upcoming trips, Florida State, South Carolina included. But I think he's going to end up at a Midwest powerhouse. You got Michigan, Notre Dame, and Penn State heavily involved here. And so these official visits, we'll see which one is the program standing on the other end. But Notre Dame's done a fantastic job here. They just had the Bronco Nagurski Player of the Year and Xavier Watts, who led the nation in interceptions. So they're going to point to that as they get Jayon Blair back to campus. And the biggest key for Blair's upcoming official visits, Josh, is just getting around the players in every locker room and seeing where he fits in best amongst the players on the team, because he already knows so much about the programs, the coaches. Now he wants to get the feel for who could be his friends. Where does he fit in best?
All right, we know Mark Zachary is a big-time target. We know Jayon Blair is a big-time target. Who else should Notre Dame fans kind of be zeroed in on when it comes to this recruiting board right now?
Well, as they try and finish with the top 5 class, receiver is one of the big points of emphasis for Notre Dame as they continue to try and recruit at a national championship level. And to get there, Josh, they need a burner or two to add to this receiver room to keep this offense or to get this offense more explosive than what we've seen on Saturdays. Add some more guys that can touch the football and score on one touch. Dylan Robinson from California is one of those guys, sub 4.5 in the 40-yard dash. Javon Boggs is a receiver from Cocoa in Florida, state champion, had a monster junior year. Former Ohio State commit, was up for the spring game. He's trying to come back for an official. Derek Meadows, Tanuk Hines, and Taylon Taylor are a few other receivers that are on the board. Derek Meadows is obviously one of the elite pass catchers in the country. Alabama is involved there. Georgia's involved. Michigan just had them on campus. Tennessee, South Carolina. So Notre Dame and Michigan battling SEC programs for Derek Meadows. And then a couple defensive targets still out there for Notre Dame. Defensive lineman Jalen Wiggins, who we talk about regularly on this show. He's committed to Florida, but he's keeping the door open for a lot of programs. He's a high academic kid. We talked last week about Florida State being in the thick of that, but Notre Dame, Stanford certainly trying to get involved. And then linebacker Madden Faramo is another major target for Notre Dame that they're certainly near the top of the list for.
All right, here we go. Sprint to the finish. Let's talk a little Texas A&M. You put in a new recruiting prediction machine pick in for Kobe Sellers. What got you going on that one?
Well, he's going to announce his college commitment in May, and after taking a couple visits to see this new Texas A&M staff in the spring, they are trending here. This is one of the first prospects that the new staff hit the ground running on, with Coach Ish and Coach Elko leading the charge. And then when Coach Peterson got hired from Kansas, he also has been all in on this recruitment. He likes what Coach Peterson did with the DBs at Kansas. Certainly Coach Elko being a defensive back-minded head coach, being around the staff, he feels very comfortable. And Oklahoma was at one point considered the favorite, but right now it's Texas A&M.
All right. Speaking of Oklahoma being considered the favorite, Jonah Williams put out his official visit dates. Now, Oklahoma is the leader on the recruiting prediction machine for the #1 safety in America, but are you giving the Aggies a shot here?
I think the Aggies are the favorite going into the official visits now. I think things have cooled with Oklahoma, and I'm at the point now where I'm debating an RPM pick for Jonah Williams in Texas A&M, still making phone calls. Now, this is a recruitment that's been fluid. Ohio State's rising. LSU's always been in it. Oregon's been a mainstay in this recruitment, but he took a couple visits to Texas A&M, including the spring game, and he said Coach Elko's a safeties coach, so you know the development there is going to be great, and Coach Ishmael is a great overall coach that creates real relationships with recruits. The coaching staff, he said, just excites him on a different level. He talked about the track record of player development. You know, Mike Elko's had guys like Kyle Hamilton and Jesse Bates, and the way they want to utilize Jonah schematically as that Swiss Army knife on the defensive end is very exciting for him. So I think Texas A&M has the momentum, and he's also one of the best baseball players in the country, and Aggies are playing really good baseball right now. So the Aggies could add Kobe Sellers. I think there's trending for Jonah Williams right now. And then Trey McNutt, another elite safety from Ohio. They're in the top 3 or 4 for him with Coach Ish leading the charge. Texas A&M has a chance to put together one of the special defensive back hauls in the country.
Yeah, it's coming together. Let's stay with the recruiting prediction machine because you predicted the number 6 athlete in America, De'Aaron Hill, to Oregon. What got you going on that? Was it his visit over the weekend?
Yeah, he was just in Eugene for Oregon spring game. It was his second time there this calendar year. He was also in Eugene for Junior Day earlier this year. Oregon loves this kid, and how could you not? He's the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Illinois, rushed for nearly 1,800 yards and 23 touchdowns. He averaged over 13 yards per carry. Josh, the metric for NFL running backs drafted is 10 yards per carry. He's over 13. He returned 2 kickoffs for scores, threw a touchdown pass, and then defensively had 3 interceptions. 2 of those he ran back for a touchdown. So he's a stat sheet filler, and Oregon is clearly the team to beat after a couple visits this year. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of the next in the fold as Oregon tries to push for a second straight top 5 class.
All right, Steve, I see you're on the ground out in Indy. What have you been doing? What's been going on out there? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so this week in Indianapolis, high school programs are doing workouts specifically designed and scheduled so college coaches can conveniently make their way around the suburbs and city to see top prospects, college coaches of all levels. And I've stopped in at some of these high schools. I saw Mark Zachary, who we talked about earlier in the show. Wednesday morning, I saw on 300 receiver John Anthony Hall. Iowa was his latest offer. Indiana and Purdue are setting the pace in this recruitment. An explosive 3-sport athlete that won the basketball state championship. Fishers beat Mark Zachary and Ben Davis in the final this year, and John Anthony Hall was the reason why in that ball game. He's also already long jumped over 23 feet this year. If Michigan or a program like that offers, it could really shake things up in this recruitment. And I'm expecting Ron Bellamy from the Wolverines to go by and see John Anthony Hall while he's in town to see Eugene Hilton, the receiver from Zionsville, where I live, on Thursday. We'll see Eugene Hilton Jr., who's very high on his recent offer from Michigan, also likes Missouri. Among others there. I saw Mason Alexander, a 4-star corner from Fishers Hamilton Southeastern. Purdue is in a great spot there. Missouri's having a phenomenal recruiting year. Mason Alexander's a 10-6 guy in the 100-meter dash. He would be a big pickup for Missouri, but Purdue had 6 coaches out to see him on Wednesday morning. Cameron Gorin's an offensive line legacy recruit for Purdue. His dad, Brandon, played for the Boilers before helping the Patriots win a Super Bowl. I think he also helped the Broncos win a Super Bowl. So saw him, and then also got a chance to see New Minnesota commit Enoch Adewagbola out of Avon High School. He's got some high upside, some very interesting traits as a pass rusher. 2 2026s, Josh, that I already saw. Dominic Berry, a tight end from Center Grove, and Casimir Hicks, a defensive back from Decatur Central, who had 20 pass breakups as a sophomore. I think they're going to be heavily recruited when all said and done. And then some stops still to make. Davian Chandler is a receiver from Lawrence North that's high on Indiana, Kansas, Purdue, Wisconsin. And then I'm going to go by Warren Central. They have on 300 defensive end Damian Shanklin. They have one of the top 2026s in the country, J.J. Fintz. They have another defensive lineman, Tyrone Burris, who's highly recruited. So we'll have reports on all these guys on the On3 network. And with that, I want to thank everybody for tuning into the latest episode of Wiltfong Whip Around. Please be sure to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss videos like this and the ones from my colleagues on this platform. We'll be back on Monday for a new episode of Wiltfong Whip Around. And in the meantime, make sure you're getting over to On3 Sports for the latest regarding your favorite college football program.